What's up, my people? Welcome to Fellowship Bible Church's Sermon Spotlight, where we are coming at you each and every week with a fresh service to debrief in an effort to send biblical truth. And what better way to do that than by the power of conversation? I'm Caleb Pearson. To my right, my only other person here this morning, Ashton Berzio.
Morning.
Ashton, how you doing, man?
Great.
Good. I realize I call you buddy exclusively.
Yeah.
I think every podcast so far, I haven't gone back to listen to each and every one, but I went with man today. I hope you don't feel lesser.
I didn't even notice.
Ideally, you'd feel more. It addresses your manhood a little bit more than buddy.
Yeah.
But anyway, Mark's not here.
That's right.
Jen is not here. Shout out to Jen Fitzpatrick, by the way.
She was awesome.
She did such a good job. It was so good to
Can't
go
wait
back
to get her
through.
back.
It makes it easier for me to re-listen to us, too, when I'm not talking as much, and I get to hear somebody else who's much cooler and more well-spoken. So.
Right. You might be wondering what I'm doing.
Oh, yeah.
If you're watching the video version.
We're not making some sort of mysterious concoction back here behind the table. We're petting a puppy dog. Oh, you can do it.
Nope. She doesn't want it.
Dang it. Well, I saw that chair on the floor down there. I was like, could she sit up in the chair? No, she couldn't.
Maybe. She's just going to be down here.
Denali the puppy is here to celebrate Christmas Eve, Ashton.
Yep.
'Tis the season. But before we get into that, should we address in front of, everyone that you haven't seen Star Wars yet, or what's the deal there?
Hey, you know what? When you got two babies,
No, I know.
it makes it really hard to do the things that you want to do.
Driving here, I was trying to come up with a way to burn you for not seeing it.
Yeah.
But I was like, I can't do that in a way that doesn't make him seem better than me because I'm the nerd that's going to see it twice in 4 days. And you're like, oh, what's my excuse? A loving family.
Sorry, had to care for my children.
The raising of future generations.
Be wise with my money.
While I'm obsessing over past generations. In all seriousness, though, dude, it was so good.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing. I'm excited.
I loved it. I do hope you get a chance to watch it so we can nerd out about it.
Sarah and I are working through over the last however much. We've been working through from episode 1.
Yeah.
All the old movies and new movies, and we're on the worst of the 8.
Okay,
right now.
There you go. You just got to get over that hump.
The Last Jedi.
Just get over the hump, buddy. You can do it. Well, it's funny with the whole Disney Plus thing. They're all remastered, super shiny now.
Yep.
But so it's funny to go back and watch the original trilogy to see what they can enhance and what they can't. Some of those scenes. But yeah, it was super fun. For those of you who don't know, this is Fellowship Sermon Spotlight. We post each and every week, Tuesday mornings. We also give our listeners and our congregation kind of an opportunity to participate alongside us in what we will be talking about. We'll talk a little bit about Mark's sermon on Sunday, but with the Christmas season upon us, and what is a busy season for me as I'm packing for Israel, Ashton,
right.
I wanted to go ahead and share a little bit about Christmas evening traditions and what that looks like. And so I posted. Did you see the poll and did you take it?
I did not take it.
You didn't even, Ashton.
Sorry,
when people see that I post something and you don't do it, it speaks to disunity, okay? So why don't you go take it? What's interesting is, so I said, what is your favorite Christmas evening tradition? I put evening to clarify.
Yep.
And it's funny, people can add their own options, which I guess is a good thing, because attending service won, and that was not something I put in there because it was implied, people, okay? I hope everyone is enjoying Fellowship Bible Church's Christmas Eve services, of which there are 3, 11, 5, and 7.
That's right.
And so it was cool to see people comment, what they do, all the weird stuff people do, all the cool stuff people do, everything they have in common.
Shout out to Bill Hutchinson.
Dude, okay, I don't know if he has a notification on his phone or the sixth sense of us posting, but he goes,
right.
He's reliable. You know what I mean?
Well, they hold off
Yeah.
to finish up the Christmas decorations.
Okay, I see what you're saying. I thought you were referring to his ability to
He
comment.
said, we bring the tree in on Christmas Eve.
Oh, I see. Look what he
And
said.
slowly
I'm reading
distribute
this for
the decorations.
I actually liked his comment, but I'm reading it for the first time. Does that make me fake? It says, slowly distribute decorations on the tree and throughout the house all day.
So how long do those decorations stay up?
I'm just picturing a house full of Hutchinsons, slowly
Yeah.
pacing through that's so funny. Good for him, man. I love it when people do things where I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
That's great.
Because that's their normal. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's their tradition. It's the way those things go. We're kind of low key. We'll do Secret Santa and maybe one gift Christmas Eve, and that gift tends to almost be a more immediate opening or enjoyment, whether it's edible or bedtime themed.
Yeah.
I've noticed. You get some PJ pants, you get your Christmas PJs. I don't know. I mean, what do you and Sarah do with the kids? Do you guys feel like you're still evolving into a tradition?
We haven't really done the same thing 2 years in a row. So a lot of times we'll spend time with family, whether we go to the Avery's house, Christmas Eve. Kind of it depends on schedules too, because everybody's got different schedules, and we've got a lot of family to see, and so
that's good. Avery's host Christmas out there in the boonies.
Yeah,
do they?
Most years we
awesome.
really spend, either Christmas Eve, the day, or the day after,
cool.
somewhere around.
It's nice. I went out there for the first time the other day. It was really nice. Super exciting. I'll be in the nursery and preschool for the 5 o'clock, and then attending the 7 with my fam. So
nice.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess Christmas Eve services would be a tradition because we do that every year.
I mean, you think about it. I definitely should have put it in the poll, but whatever.
Well.
And even my favorite part about the services is the right before and right after.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like I'm always seeing people I haven't seen in a while, whether it's college students coming back home or people who might not necessarily come each and every Sunday. It's a really cool feeling to see everybody celebrate the season, and I love the services too. The stuff Mike and his team put together for worship and all that. It's really good.
Yep.
But Ashton, leaving for Israel on December 26th. That's weird.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Am I supposed to pack on Christmas? I don't know if you couldn't tell already, but I haven't really packed yet. I'm assuming we have a evening flight on the 26th. It's like 80 of us from the church going. So
you're assuming.
What am I assuming?
You don't even know what time your flight is?
Oh, no. So there's 2 flights.
Okay.
Ready? I'm going to prove you wrong and me right, sort of. One flight is like 6:30. One flight is like 6:05-ish or something like that. But I would imagine we'll all be figuring out carpools and just getting to Dulles and then going from there.
Right.
But Ashton, help, disciple me. Do I want to pack on Christmas Day?
Mm-hmm.
Do I? Or do I want to pack today, Christmas Eve?
I mean,
do I wake up
get yourself
26th?
ready.
I'm thinking about waking up the 26th and just packing.
Yeah.
But what if I don't want to start the process then and be like, oh, no, it's too late. I need to go buy something.
Here's what you need to do.
So
on Christmas or today, just write out a list of all the things that you know you're going to forget.
Okay.
And just keep adding to it throughout the day as you're thinking.
Can you write me the list and then email it to me? Because I do not want to do that. But anyway, no, it'll be fun, man. I'll be over there for 12 days. So we do need to talk about what happens with Sermon Spotlight next week.
Right.
But yeah, it'll be fun to come back, and Dennis, Courtney, and I will hopefully be able to share a lot with the youth about what we did over there, and yeah, it'll be fun on the adventure bus. Yeah. You know what I mean? This is going to be a nonstop adventure.
I've never been to Israel.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool. You could Skype me in Sermon Spotlight, although it would be like 3 a.m. or something weird. But I'm blessed with this opportunity to go with the church, and it'll be a lot of fun. And it's interesting too, as we go ahead and kind of pivot into a little bit of Sunday in Review, Ashton.
Yeah.
Mark introed his sermon with a pretty long segment about traveling and how to travel light. And I felt like it was good for me, A, because I need to pack, and then B, just to remember what we think we need, what we prioritize in our life as far as attaining either, in my mind, a level of status or a level of comfort. I think it's kind of an either or thing oftentimes for people. But even as I just do something as normal as packing for a trip overseas, like you start to realize, okay, well, what actually do I need to take? And am I going to actually be lugging this stuff around? It paints a more vivid picture of what is your baggage.
Yeah.
And so I thought it was really good.
It's a good microcosm for traveling through life. I mean, sitting on a plane for however long you're going to be on. And when I travel, comfort is a huge part of my, my planning and entertainment and, and I don't know, maybe that's a metaphor for life.
Yeah, no, it's good. And the reason I'm laughing at you is just because I remember when we went to Malawi, you have to go through that don't damage my expensive equipment through checking the luggage. That's a little bit different, though. It's not that you need camera lenses to live. It's that you don't want to get fired kind of thing. But, yeah, that's funny. So, yeah, as I just kind of figure out, okay, well, what do I need in my backpack? What do I need in my luggage? 12 days in a foreign country, what do I need? And the needs are really never going to outweigh the wants as far as we think, and it's so quick to think like that. But Ashton and Mark dove into a few different passages out of Luke talking about greed and what that means in our life, the pursuits we often put on ourselves and how they can often surpass our ambition towards growing closer to Christ. I mean, what stood out to you from what Mark shared this weekend?
I appreciated the the timing of the message, and I know it was intentional, but not the way that he brought up these three passages, these three different encounters with Christ in the Gospels, and all of them really had this context of things, of people asking him about things. So the brother who wanted the inheritance, and Jesus says, "Take care and be on your guard against all covetousness, for one's life does not consist in the abundance of his possessions." And then both of the other stories, the rich man, the rich ruler with the eye of the needle, the camel in the eye of the needle story. But just in the context of this season, how he shaped it, and not as a guilt. He wasn't saying anything about being guilty about what we were doing this season, or that it's good to give gifts, that it's good to be with family and to feast together and to do all these things, but the motivation for how we're approaching the possession of wealth and the abundance of things. It was good. It was a good reminder, and I hope people saw that. They saw that it's not about the things. That the things are okay. It's okay to have things. It's okay to accumulate wealth. It's okay to give gifts and to have these possessions, but the motivation and the heart behind your desire for those things is hugely important. But then also what you do with those possessions and with that wealth to continue to draw people to Christ. It was just really good.
Yeah, and I like what you said there at the end of just, what do you do in response to all these things? Are you chasing the blessings or chasing God, and amidst everything else, he provides for you? You don't change. The eye is still on that one prize.
Right.
And even one verse that's been hugely impactful for me is just Matthew 6:33. Seeking first the kingdom of God, and all else will be added to you. The context of that verse is talking about like shelter and water and like safety. And so if it is applicable for those things, to seek God first, and all else will be added to you as far as keeping you alive, how much more applicable is that for the more mundane things of life, or even the things we elevate to a certain importance? I mean, to hear Mark talk about the statistics of Christmas shopping, I was embarrassed for our species. I was like, what? Because he said something about the average was like pushing $1,000 a person on Christmas
like 9
presents.
something.
And then he also said 8% of people spend $0. Which means the people that are spending money are basically spending $1,000 to make that statistic even out. And so obviously I'm sitting here saying, hey, I'm way under. But that's not because that's just because I'm poor. Okay. So it puts it in perspective. It really does.
Hey, Facebook Marketplace is incredible. Especially for young kids.
Oh man,
finding toys.
My girlfriend's dad uses Facebook Marketplace a lot, and I've heard more and more people starting to use it. It's like is it a friendlier eBay? Is it an updated Craigslist?
It's more like Craigslist, but
where you feel a little bit safer,
right? Because you can see who's selling it, and you can interact with them.
I think there's still an element of meeting somebody in a parking lot. You gotta. Okay, interesting.
Sarah started doing porch pickup, which is great. You just put the thing out on the porch.
Oh, really?
They drop the money off. They take the toy or the thing, and
man,
no interaction.
Interesting. That's so crazy. It's safer, I guess.
But, yeah,
that's funny. But yeah, no, I really liked. I like the timing of the service and what he did with it. It's been cool to see, even on the website, the flow of the shift of the focus, from the written word to the living word. We heard Mark elaborate on that a little bit a couple weeks ago in one of our older episodes, but part of me was still curious. That sounds great. What is he actually talking about? I think we think that way a lot. That sounds awesome. What's it actually going to look like? But to see him break down the focusing on the things of today, and then also this is the proximity to Christmas, and even at the beginning of his sermon, just addressing all the people traveling and all the people coming and going, and it's busy. It feels busy right now, especially with everything I need to check off. As far as my Israel packing list that Ashton's going to type and send my way, and then Christmas being on a Wednesday. I mean, we have Christmas Eve stuff happening downstairs right now below us. People are setting up, and everybody's all over the place. I think it mimics, again, that follow the star chaos a little bit that we talked about, but keeping a proper heart posture in that I think is really good. Yeah, I don't know. Did anything else stand out to you, Ashton, or anything you wanted to bring up? We don't have an official agenda or outline with discussion questions or anything today. Just wanted to. We weren't even going to record as of last week, but then I was like, let's just do it, man. Yep. You'll be here, I'll be here. Star Wars, Santa hat, the whole big thing. Yep. I don't know any other things that the Lord's putting on your heart in particular before we.
Well, there's something that Mark said near the end. It was in the context of the rich man and Christ's answer to him of, his question of what must I do? What can I do? And his answer to him was get rid of all your possessions and give it to the poor. And it was important, I think, that Mark said, I don't think that this is what God is calling us to. We can read a story like that and be like, well, I could never do that. Why is that, something I have to do? But, just coming back to the motivation, that man in that particular situation, that's what he needed to do in order to, because Jesus could see through his mind and his heart and
he's
knew.
Saying, let go of what you're hanging on to.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and it sets up a lose-lose situation for us if we misinterpret what that means.
Right.
Either you say, that doesn't apply to me, no, I'm not giving up my stuff. Or you say, okay, I'll give up all my stuff and hope that works.
Right.
You're still elevating the things.
Right.
We're receiving things. There are people, Ashton, that take pride in giving things. And no one's ever going to look at that and say, you selfish heathen. But if they put pride in giving things, it's still the thing. And so it's cool to. Jesus was poetic, man.
Yeah.
You can just picture the perplexity of what what did you just say? And it requires meditation. It requires thinking on those words, and really really cool to go through that and just be reminded. Again, day in and day out when the seasons change, what is that going to look like? I mean, we're going to have this whole New Year's resolution culture, all the new beginnings. I mean, the amount of memes and stuff on Facebook of 2019 was rough, but 2020, I'm going to thrive. I'm going to conquer this, and this. And it's like, well, you also posted that in 2018. and if you're putting it on yourself, trying to do it, everyone's looking for that same answer.
Right.
And so how blessed are we that, he is the Rock of Ages and we can rely on him. And then again, Ashton too, just I hope, and it'll be interesting to see how me stepping into the new year in Israel impacts me to think about the permanence of Jesus being the reason for the season.
Yeah.
It's the Christian quip of every day, Jesus is the reason for the season every day of the year, but we get into that, day after Thanksgiving until the 25th, Nativity, baby Jesus, bam. And then we don't think about Jesus as the baby being born at all. Ben Stewart in Passion City in D.C., he had a sermon the other day, and they post online and stuff. They're easy to find. He dove into, it was funny, they're doing a study of is that your dog whistling? That is so impressive.
She's whining.
I was like, what is happening? They were reading out of Micah, doing a series through Micah, but he wanted to tie it to the Bethlehem story, and it was so cool because he basically talked about why God chose Bethlehem, and even in the smallest, most insignificant of places, this significant king is this elaborate display of God is demonstrated, and it was really cool to just see and embrace how serious this emergence of this baby Jesus was. And I think for Christians, if we're so in tune to his death, it can be easy to maybe sideline the birth a little bit or say, oh, well, that's why he came was to do this, which is totally awesome. But even to place yourself in history a little bit and think what must that have been where people are traveling to Jerusalem, to the kingly places, expecting to find this Messiah king. Yeah. And they say, no, he's 5 miles down the road in Bethlehem. And everyone's saying, what's Bethlehem? It's the lowly place. Really, really cool and humbling to just think that God chose that place and that narrative.
Yeah. I think that's why, and I think Mike and the Creative Arts worship team does this really well. It's important to recount the whole story every week, every day. The majesty and the glory of God, the separateness of him, his holiness, the creation story, the fall of man, all of the Old Testament stories that lead up to, that the thread of the promise of a Savior is woven through, and then, to where we are right now in our celebration to the birth of the Savior. If you don't have all of the backstory and all of the stuff that came before and all of the grace and the mercy that God showed through history, and then with the forward looking of, because really with Advent, we sometimes tend to look at it as a anticipation of the birth of Jesus, which that's half of it. But Advent is really about the second coming of Jesus. It's putting in the context of the birth and celebrating that, and that's a good thing to do, but we also have to look to his promise of his return. And so the value of the whole gospel, the whole story, every day, every time we gather, every time we, just repeating that to ourselves and remembering.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah. And it just, knowing all that stuff doesn't add to your salvation experience, but it makes it taste sweeter. Like it really does, to gain in the knowledge and in the appreciation of that story unfolding. And I mentioned this a couple weeks ago on the podcast, but history being maybe the greatest tool to prove God's existence or to support what Jesus did. Like this is a historical fact. All this stuff happened,
right.
And so if we can find it in history and see how all these other different ancient texts and readings tie into this crazy narrative of this baby being born and throwing everything for a loop, I don't know. It's just it makes the guy that died on the cross for me that much more palatable, that much more familiar.
Yeah.
And it's just, being somebody who happened to be saved when they were 4 years old, it's retroactive appreciation, And so I can only imagine what that moment of salvation is like for somebody who maybe attends a Christmas Eve service for the first time and accepts Christ when they're 32. We hear and see those stories, and it's always encouraging to us to see somebody else accept Christ, but just the way it takes them over is it's just really cool.
Well, just what you said about the familiarity of Christ is good, because that's in Hebrews. That's the
right.
He had to be made like us. He had to come as a baby. He had to be, formed in a womb and born and go through infancy and toddler years and teenage years and all of the stuff that we have gone through, so that we could come to him and he would be able to sympathize with us in our weaknesses and in our struggles. So it's hugely important to focus on the birth of Christ, because he knows where we've been and what we've been through. And
even the beginning of Hebrews unfolds, and it talks about, even the ESV heading there is Jesus greater than Moses. Not only does he fit in, but he blows up the credibility and authority that he has compared to his lineage. The line of David, and even the Pharisees coming at him with Mosaic law and all that different stuff. And it's funny to go through the New Testament and see how other people name drop when they're getting in debates with Jesus. And Jesus will respond with those names, but Jesus is just name dropping the Father the whole time. And so it's just so funny to see. A couple years ago, leading a small group at James Madison, did a study, kind of formed a study with my co-leader called Jesus Encounters. And so we were going to, with our freshman small group, brand new, again, freshman college students looking for belonging, half of them rooted Christians, half of them want nothing to do with Jesus. They're just there socially. So I was like, man, let's go through John. Let's look at different Jesus encounters and study, the posture of Jesus, the posture of the other people, and any witnesses, and just go from there. And even 2 days ago, I had one of those guys text me and saying, hey, I'm now a small group leader leading freshmen. I want to do Jesus encounters with them. Do you have any sort of outline or guidance for that? And so I got to talk with him a little bit and hash out here's the narrative you can take, and here are the points to hit. Oh man, it was a really cool feeling for me to again see that out of what was once a freshman small group member, but also just the importance of it's knowing Jesus. Knowing God is an impossible task, and Jesus made it doable. Like Jesus is he's the road. He's the reason for the season as well. So really, really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, thanks for being here Christmas Eve morning, man. That's super awesome.
Oh,
yeah. I made it 6 to 7 hours last week before Mark Carey texted me.
It was impressive, yeah.
He texted me, though. I could, be like, it wasn't a personable thing. No, I'm going to take him out to lunch. He's a good guy. He listened.
Yep.
So that's really great. It'll be good to see him. Do we want to talk off air about what happens next week? Do you have a vision for that?
Yeah, so if you're gone, we'll figure something out.
All applications can be sent to Ashton B. Whatever y'all want to do.
I think it would be great to kind of recap some of the year. I mean, that's December 31st.
Okay.
Maybe look back at some of the things that God has done at FEC, and if Mark is able to be here to maybe give us a little bit of vision for the next year.
Yeah.
And there's some huge stuff coming next year.
Yeah.
So
big time.
It's our 40th anniversary as a church.
That's crazy.
We've got some exciting things with church plan and some great stuff coming. So yeah, I think we'll meet next week. And
cool. Yeah, I look forward to listening to it.
Yeah.
Man. It'll be cool. Thank you guys so much for. I need to pull up my.
Well, real quick, we have another. Before we head out, if you're still listening, thanks for sticking with us. We launched another channel.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Our vision for podcasting here at FBC, we've always wanted to do it. We finally got the studio set up. We've got the vision. We've got the content. So we have kind of a 3-tiered approach. This podcast, and then our sermons podcast, which is just the recordings from the weekend. This is kind of like the Gathering podcasts about our weekend services, unpacking sermons. We also have a channel about our mission, and that's the Global Church podcast, where Scott and Jim unpack. And this last episode that they did, I don't know if you were able to listen to it yet, but it was long. It was a little over an hour. But man, just them listening into them talk about their trips and getting some inside information about the times that they have with the global church leaders. It was awesome.
Well, because they both had a trip, right?
Right.
One Malawi, one Thailand.
Yeah.
I was in the Star Wars line, and Jim Poole beat me there. Okay, I got there 4 hours early, and Jim Poole and his family beat me there. But anyway, so I was in line with them talking about it. He was like, "Yeah, we recorded a really long podcast today. Like, I hope that's okay. I hope Ashton's not upset." I was like, "No way, dude. Like, y'all got to do what you got to do."
No, it was great.
No one's gonna expect you to debrief 2 countries in 5 minutes.
Yeah. So a little bit longer form, but really great to listen in on those conversations, and they're going to continue to do that, sharing stories. So that's our Global Church podcast. And then our third channel is the Fellowship Family podcast, and that's really church life, anything related to church life. So we're kicking off that podcast with the focus, this next focus where we're talking about identity and sexuality, a biblical perspective on that. So John Avery and John Morrison and I, I think the first episode is going to be released on Friday of this week. Same audio and on YouTube. And every week throughout this focus, they're going to be releasing new content on Friday mornings. Okay. So definitely subscribe to all 3 of these channels. Follow it. Turn on the notifications for it. Just a great resource for you to listen to throughout your week.
Well, and again, our YouTube channel barely existed a month and a half ago, and so now it has everything we do. So if you go to YouTube and find Fellowship Bible Church and subscribe, you'll be able to get each and everything and listen to that, or even watch the video. Thank you guys so much for listening. We hope you have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Ashton will be here next week with you guys. I will be back from Israel a couple weeks from now, and we'll be able to debrief that a little bit. The fact of the matter, though, is that sermons are not meant to just take an hour, but rather transform a lifetime. Until next week, much love and God bless, and may the force be with you always. You know what I mean?